Summary. Ryan Quicksave Romano is an eccentric adventurer with a strange power. He can create a save point in time and redo his life whenever he dies. Arriving in New Rome, the glitzy capital of sin of a rebuilding Europe, he finds the city torn between megacorporations, sponsored heroes, superpowered criminals, and true monsters. It's a time of chaos, where potions can grant the power to rule the world and dangers lurk everywhere. Ryan only sees different routes, and from hero to villain, he has to try them all. Only then will he achieve his perfect ending, no matter how many loops it takes. Chapter 1, Quick Save. It was May 8, 2020 for the third time, and Ryan had already caused 2 traffic accidents. He blamed the people of New Rome for this. The city's inhabitants were as nervous as coffee addicts in the morning, and drove their cars like monkeys out for his blood. Moving on the walkway would have been safer. Thankfully, he had saved right before passing the "Welcome to New Rome" sign at the end of the highway linking the city to the rest of the Campania region. Driving his highly customized red Plymouth Fury, Ryan stopped right before a tank truck would have hit him to the left, dodged a bliss addict meth head, and then finally reached New Rome's strip. Owing to its reputation as the largest metropolis in Italy and a ravaged Europe's capital of sin, New Rome was quite the sight. Built around the shores of the Gulf of Naples years after Mecca's drones bombed it to oblivion, it had the tallest buildings Ryan had seen since the end of the Genome Wars. None held a candle to the Dynamis Tower north of town, a glass spire symbolizing the company's power over the region. Corporate money had built New Rome, a city with no gods nor kings. Only money. At the left of the driveway, Ryan could see the pristine Mediterranean Sea, glittering with the sunset, while a distant island cast a long shadow on the horizon. On his right, he could glance at the countless casinos, gambling dens, and luxury hostels that drew so many tourists to the city. He even glimpsed the famous Colosseum Maximus, a modern replica of the old world's Colosseum. This district truly deserved its name of the Golden Coast. Ryan himself attracted a few glances from tourists since he drove in his quick-save costume. He covered his adorable face with a metal, mouthless mask with 2 rounded glasses for eyes, and his black hair beneath a black top hat. Add to that a navy blue trench coat, a purple shirt, blue pants, black gloves, and boots, and you became style incarnate. The outfit was hot to wear, and not very practical for fighting, but it looked amazing. To Quick Save, that was all that mattered. As he continued moving north towards his destination, Ryan noticed a few eye-catching publicity boards. One of them portrayed the superheroine Wyvern, a beautiful Amazon of a woman with shoulder-length black hair, sharp grayish eyes, and a white bodysuit, showing off her muscles with a green potion in the background. Want to be as strong as Wyvern? With our Hercules elixir, what Hercules did in 12 labors, you will do in an afternoon. 100,000 euros, only at Dynamis.
Meh.
Everyone wanted to be a genome these days, even the shadow of one. Then again, who could resist superpowers in a can? Ryan hadn't, although he had taken the real stuff, not a cheap knockoff giving just a fraction of a real superpower. His life had been a roller coaster ever since. Driving in front of a cliff tourist spot and a Miami-like beach, Ryan reached a tourist district, full of bars, nightclubs, and restaurants. The place smelled of drugs and alcohol, but it didn't look seedy either. The worst neighborhoods were in the north, from what he had heard. Having memorized the city's map, Ryan quickly found the place he was looking for, an unremarkable pub located between an Italian restaurant and a closed nightclub. Parking his car nearby, the courier stepped down and opened his trunk. Never good at organizing stuff, the young man had left all his belongings in a chaotic mess. His tools, computers, and weapons formed a mass of metal almost overflowing from the car, although none compared to his white rabbit plushie, the most devastating tool in his arsenal. After searching, Ryan quickly found the black briefcase he had been hired to deliver, seized it, closed the trunk, and then entered the pub. It was something of a cozy place with 10 tables, only a third of them occupied. He briefly noticed some Latin muchacho trying to impress his date by levitating a coin in the air. He must have wasted $50,000 on a knockoff elixir. A balding, wrinkled old man with tan skin stood behind the counter, looking at the newcomer suspiciously. "Hello, local humans, I come in peace." Ryan addressed the carbon-based life form called a barman. "Is this Renesco's Jolie Wrangler?" The man behind the counter glared at him. "It's written on the front door." "What do you want?" Why did the bar's title involve both French and English words, while the barman sounded like a true Italian? Multiculturalism struck again. "Then you must be Renesco." Ryan handed the poor fellow the briefcase. "I've been hired to give you this. It's full of mushrooms and a bomb, but I didn't open it this time." This time, the barman frowned. "Are you?" "I'm Quick Save," Ryan introduced himself, tipping his hat. "I'm immortal, but don't tell anyone." "Man, you said it loud enough for everyone to hear," someone jeered at the back, the few clients laughing. "That's your power?" the barman asked, unimpressed. "Immortality?" "It's part of a package deal," Ryan replied. "Whatever," Renesco grumbled while he seized the briefcase. "I'll tell my boss and you should receive your payment soon." "Good to hear," Ryan replied, a hand on the counter. "Hey, look, since I'm here, have you seen a girl called Len? Black hair, blue eyes, Marxist-Leninist?" "Never heard of her," the barman said with a shrug. "If you're looking for a girl, try a brothel." "That's not really the type, but thanks anyway." Knowing her, Len was probably hiding in some underground Kremlin bunker. "Any place where you can buy custom genius tech? Homemade? Try Rust Town in the north, if you're brave enough. You can always find interesting stuff at the junkyard, but it's full of cutthroats and psychos nowadays." The barman looked at Quick Save head to toe. "They're going to eat you alive." Ryan shrugged, while he heard someone enter the bar. The temperature seemed to suddenly drop a few degrees. "Renesco?" the newcomer asked. "Yes," the barman replied, frowning. A second later, an ice spear tore out Renesco's throat and nailed him to the back wall. Ryan tried to activate his time stop, but a sharp icicle hit his chest at astonishing speed. It pierced his bulletproof jacket and his ribs like a spear, then came out on the other side, leaving a gaping hole where the lungs should have been. The room erupted in screams, as projectiles shredded the tables and clients alike. Struggling against the sharp pain in his chest, Ryan collapsed on the counter but managed to glance at his attacker. The newcomer removed his hoodie, revealing his face, or rather his lack of one. He looked like a walking, skinless skeleton with vestigial muscles, skeletal fingers, and frozen eyes. An unnatural, chilling mist came out of his mouth and nasal cavities, transforming into ice weapons. A genome. Considering his physical mutation, maybe even a psycho. "Adam sends his regards," the killer rasped. The machacho man in the bar's back tried to telekinetically throw a chair at him, but the hostile genome grew an armor of ice over his bones. A few icicles later, the Spanish guy and his date had their face redrawn in a cubic style. "I will get you," Ryan dramatically raised a finger at his murderer, blood flowing from his mouth, "on my next save." The undead froze him alive with a wave of his hand, and all went dark. It was May 8, 2020 for the fourth time, and Ryan was pissed. 3 times. 3 times he had died trying to make this damn delivery. Then again, that was what he got when not paying attention. With the exception of his save point, his powers needed a conscious action to activate. His enhanced timing sense, in particular, didn't kick in until after he had lived through events once already. Ryan didn't mind dying, since he had gotten used to it after the first 24 times, but dying so soon? Less than 2 hours after establishing a save point, 3 times in a row? His loops usually lasted days, allowing him to try new and interesting stunts, while repeating the same things in quick succession bored him to death. This meant war. Ryan entered his autopilot mode, his mind wandering off while his body repeated all the actions of his previous save. He only stopped and regained full consciousness as he reached the bar. Instead of entering, Ryan remained in his car, waiting for his killer to show up. He didn't have to wait long, as the assassin walked out of a street corner, hands in his pockets and his ugly face hidden beneath a hoodie. It said something about New Rome that this crook didn't draw attention as he entered the Jolie Wrangler. There was only one rational, responsible way to act. Ryan moved the car right in front of the pub, set an AC/DC song on the radio, and then smashed the accelerator. Pedestrians screamed in panic, some leaping out of the way as the car drove into the Wrangler's entrance. Having been reinforced specifically for this kind of stunt, the Plymouth demolished the wall and hit the assassin from behind before he could attack. The collision propelled the hostile genome against the counter, like a deer on the road. Quicksave briefly looked around. In case he had accidentally hit any of the clients, he had been very careful to position himself in an angle with nobody but the assassin on the path, but you could never know. Thankfully, he hadn't harmed anyone, and the Spanish muchacho was too busy holding his terrified girlfriend in his arms to throw stuff at Ryan. Good. He wouldn't have to reload again. "Hey, guys, I'm Quicksave," Ryan told the shocked clients as he stepped down and moved behind his car. "I'm immortal, but don't tell anyone. I'm calling security," Renesco shouted while hiding behind the counter. "Don't bother, I will be done in a minute," Ryan replied before opening his car's trunk, unconcerned. He looked at his weapons, trying to find the right one for the job. The pistol gauntlets? Too intimate. The Gauss rifle? Too quick. The shotgun? Tempting, but overdone. The rabbit plushie? Far too powerful. The baseball bat? Bad it was. Ryan whistled while playing with his chosen weapon, approaching the assassin as he rose back to his feet, using the counter as support. Any other person would have died, but all genomes possessed enhanced physical abilities. "Who the fuck are you?" the undead assassin hissed angrily, trying to manifest his armor of ice over his body as he did in the last loop, but too stunned to focus. "An Auguste?"
Nah.
"I'm just a courier," Ryan said, trying to think of a good one-liner. "Sorry, can you give me your name while you still have teeth?" The skeleton responded by raising his hand, unleashing a volley of ice shards. In response, Ryan lazily stopped time. The world turned silent, everything gained a purple hue, and the icicles froze in midair. Froze. The courier memorized that pun for later.
Yeah.
"You took me by surprise last time," Quicksave said, as he moved around the path of the attack until he was right in front of his target. Neither clients nor the enemy genome could move, trapped between 2 seconds. Not gonna happen again. When time resumed and the world regained its colors, the skeleton kissed the aluminum bat intimately. The undead genome lost a few teeth since his jaw was tight. Must have been his first time. The attack tossed the killer to his knees, and another strike introduced him face-first to the ground. Ryan started beating him up to the tune of Highway to Hell, singing to himself. Between the shock of being hit by a car at full speed and the blow to the head, the enemy genome couldn't mount a resistance. Also, it seemed he had some frozen blood below the bones and vestigial flesh. "I feel like the healthcare system, beating up a helpless granny." Ryan shook his head in disgust at the assassin, before hitting him again. "Look at what you made me do." The wicked fossil couldn't offer a good excuse, so Quicksave continued his assault. His unnatural resilience would allow him to survive far worse, and considering he had killed Ryan once, the courier didn't feel bad beating him up within an inch of his life. "Drop your weapons." Ryan turned around, 3 men in black riot gear pointing energy rifles at him from behind. They surrounded his car, while they proudly displayed the Ouroboros symbol of the Dynamis Corporation on their chests, probably members of private security. A crowd of civilians had gathered outside the bar, looking at the scene while maintaining a respectful distance. Some had even started taking pictures. "Hey, I'm just trying to help," Ryan protested, waving his blood-stained bat in surrender after kicking the assassin with his boot one last time. "You blew up my bar," Rinesco protested, emerging from behind the counter with a crimson face. "Oh, you want money?" Quicksave quickly searched inside his trench coat as 3 red circles appeared on his mask, before bringing out a wad of banknotes worth 50,000 euros. "Here, have a treat." Rinesco looked at the money, grabbed it, counted, and then made a conflicted face. "That's more than enough to pay for the repairs," he told the guards. "The guy on the floor tried to attack us, the other weirdo came to help." "You have a license?" one of the security guards asked Ryan, who shook his head. "You're a vigilante? An Augusti? Company Genome?" "Nope," Ryan replied. "Well, if you don't have a license, why shouldn't we take you into custody alongside that bone guy?" "What, you want money too?" And Ryan threw a bribe at him. The security captain grabbed the wad with one hand, counted while keeping his weapon aimed at Quicksave's head, then chuckled. "You think you can buy our honor with that?" Ryan threw him a bigger bribe. "Better," the security guardsman said, putting the money in a pocket full of grenades. He lowered his rifle and had his 2 compatriots gently grab the assassin, after punching him in the gut. "I'm glad we helped make the neighborhood safer today." "Me too," Ryan replied. "Me too." "Rinesco?" the captain asked the barman, as his men carried the assassin away. "Don't forget to pay your monthly subscription. We won't always be there to protect your establishment." And on these wise words, the trio left without looking back. "Do you always carry wads of money on yourself?" Rinesco asked Quicksave, astonished by the surreal scene. "When you cause as much collateral damage as I do, it's a real time saver," Ryan replied, the baseball bat still dripping with blood. "Who was that skeletal fellow anyway?" "Ghoul, a psycho from the Meta gang. Elixir junkies who have been hitting places like mine recently." Rinesco glared at Ryan, then at his car, and then back at its driver. "Now, get the fuck out of my bar." "Not until after I finish the damn delivery." Ryan handed the briefcase to Rinesco, not really caring about the attention he brought on it. Quicksave always delivered, no matter how many deaths needed. The barman's eyes flashed with recognition, and then confusion. "I don't get it," Rinesco said, as he grabbed the briefcase. "You aren't paid half of what you spent in the last minute." "It's not about the money," Ryan replied. He looked around as if worried that anyone listened, then whispered into Rinesco's ear. "I'm just bored." The man looked at Ryan in silence, while the courier whistled to himself as he returned to his car, driving under the sunset towards new adventures. Side quest complete. Chapter 2, Story Branching. Ryan always did science in his underwear. Clothes embodied society's restrictions upon the human spirit, the crushing power of civilization attempting to make the individual fit into the mold. But by being mostly naked, Ryan reconnected with his creativity, unbound by conformity, while his boxers represented his lingering attachment to his mental stability, preventing him from going completely off the rails. The one time Ryan had worked completely naked, he ended up building his rabbit plushie. Also, his boxers felt comfy and warm. Len had made them for him, years ago. Having rented a hotel room near the city center, Ryan spent the early morning splitting his time between researching information about New Rome and improving his gadgets. The receptionist had given Quicksave a strange glance upon seeing him move upstairs with his hands full of weapons, but didn't call the private security. Masked strangers were nothing unusual in this city. Of course, Ryan took the time to hack the bedroom's camera to protect his secret identity and to avoid panic. He had a lot of unsafe stuff in his arsenal. Resting on a chair, Ryan typed on his computer with his toes, a skill he spent many loops mastering, while he worked on his coil gun with his hands. The client had wired him his money for yesterday's delivery, with compliments for Ghoul's arrest, although the courier didn't care much. The job was just an excuse to travel across Italy looking for new adventures. Though he had put his endless wandering on hold, once he heard Len might be in New Rome. From what Renesco had told him, he should go to Rust Town for information. According to the local Dynanet, that was the nickname given to New Rome's poor northwest neighborhood. The corporations controlling the city had put all the industrial plants there, turning the area into a dumpster. They had even built a wall to prevent vagrants from moving into the other districts. According to the receptionist, the junkyard was a landmark of that area, an old coal mine transformed into an open landfill. Many rogue geniuses and adventurers exchanged stuff there. Maybe Len was among them. Someone knocked on his bedroom window. Ryan glanced at it, a woman waving her hand at him from the other side. "Hi," she said. "Can we talk for a minute?" Ryan's room was on floor 10, and it had no fire exit. "Hey." Ryan grabbed his mask and put it on, alongside the hat. "You're violating my secret identity." "You don't have one, Ryan Romano," the woman replied, raising an eyebrow. "And according to your file, you never did anything to hide it." "I have a file?" Ryan asked, overtaken by happiness. "I'm famous." "How am I described?" "Deranged, but reliable." "Sweet." They got him halfway right. The flying woman eyed him from head to toe through the glass. "Don't you intend to put on your other clothes?" Ryan chuckled. No. He would always stand against oppressors. The personal space invader responded with a frown, knocking on the window again, albeit with a bit more frustration than before. "Can you?" Ryan rose from his chair to open the window with one hand, and kept the coil gun aimed at the newcomer with the other. Now that he had a better view, Ryan immediately recognized the woman, having seen her on a publicity board yesterday. She was floating in midair thanks to translucent dragonfly wings flapping at high speed on her back, her hands on her waist. This made her look as graceful as a fairy, especially since unlike bugs she made no sound while hovering in place. "I'm Wyvern," the show-off introduced herself. She wore a sleeveless, skin-tight white uniform with Dynami's D-shaped logo on the left, and a silver star surrounded by golden laurel on the right. She was probably between her mid-20s and early 30s, and quite the eye-catcher. "I wanted to thank you for Ghoul's arrest yesterday." "Oh, you're welcome." Then Ryan started to close the window. "Hey, wait." Wyvern caught the window and kept it open. Ryan had heard she could bench press a school bus even while partially transformed, so he didn't press the issue. "What are you doing in town, Quicksave?" "Can I call you Quicksave?" "Sure." Ryan then shrugged. "I'm a courier, I deliver mail. No matter how many people want me dead." "So the Augusti didn't hire you as muscle?" the superheroine asked, a bit amused by his last comment. "The place you defended was one of their fronts. I figured they might have hired you to defend their turf from the meta gang."
Nah.
"I beat that geriatric disaster because he was in the way of completing my side quest." Wyvern made a strange face, unable to understand his jargon. The genome wars had all but destroyed the video game sector, making Ryan feel very alone. "Oh, by the way, have you heard of a girl my age called Len? Black hair, blue eyes, Marxist-Leninist?" "Marxist-Leninist?" Wyvern's frown deepened. You mean communists? Those guys still exist? I know that's probably a dirty word in this city of unbridled capitalism, but yes. No, never heard of her. The superheroine shook her head. But I can look at our files. Is that why you are in New Rome? Looking for her? Oh yes, she's beautiful and kind and she's my best friend. Ryan couldn't help but gush about her. I've been looking for her since forever. I'll help if I can, Wyvern replied with a smile. Actually, I believe I can help you a great deal. Oh. Here comes the recruitment offer. I belong to a group called Il Miglior, Wyvern said, confirming Ryan's suspicions. You've probably heard of us. Il Miglior. A bunch of corporate superheroes who were the official protectors of New Rome, and modern celebrities. Of course, they were also on Dynami's payroll, who owned their image, merchandising rights, and told them whom to fight. Nothing like Leo Hargrave's carnival. Now those were real, pro bono superheroes, wandering night style. Ryan couldn't help but admire them, even if they had caused the worst day of his life. We're always on the lookout for new talents, and while you have a reputation for collateral damage, you possess an extremely useful superpower, and as far as we know you haven't dabbled into reprehensible enterprises, nor closely associated with wanted criminals. Poor girl, if only she knew. Since you stopped Ghoul before he could go on a killing spree, I think you have your heart in the right place. So what, you want me to audition for a movie or something? Because I've only ever tried theater once, and it wasn't funny. Wyvern laughed. I wish we did fewer commercials and more arrests, she admitted, Ryan sensing a little bitterness in her tone. But we do our best to protect citizens. Come visit our HQ, see if you match with our organization. After that stunt with Ghoul, you'll need people to have your back. I can take care of myself, thanks, Ryan replied, a bit insulted that she thought he needed coddling. Look, quick save, the Meta aren't reasonable like the Augusti, she insisted. They are a roving band of psychos, and you've beat up one of their own. Their boss, Adam, eats people. Then he must have a lot on his plate. Wyvern didn't like the joke, her smile straining and her wings slowing down a bit. All right, Ryan said. I'll think about it if I ever get sidetracked on my main quest. The superheroine frowned, looking sideways. Ryan suddenly noticed an earplug in her left ear, although he couldn't hear anything. Understood, Wyvern said, although not to Ryan, before handing the courier a business card. If you change your mind, visit us at this address. Sure. Take care. And on these words, Wyvern flew away. Her wings moved so fast it became impossible for the human eye to notice them. Yet they made no sound either, except for the wind they produced. She was gone within the blink of an eye, moving north and accelerating until she reached near supersonic speed. The sound frequency of her wings must have been inaudible to humans, or run on abnormal physics. Everything was possible with genomes. The courier memorized that observation for later. Finally alone, Ryan closed the window and returned to his task. But no sooner did he sit back in his chair, that he received a vocal communication demand on his computer. The genome immediately recognized the caller as the same person who ordered the Renesco delivery. He lazily opened the vocal channel with his left toe. Quick save deliveries, what can I do for you? What did the bitch tell you? An encrypted voice on the other end answered. Ryan raised an eyebrow behind his mask. Wait, am I being spied on? Few places are off the grid in New Rome. Note to self, find a more discreet hotel next loop. I'm pretty sure the last person who used that line didn't encrypt their voice. Who are you, creepy mystery voice? My name is Vulcan, the caller answered. I represent the Augusti. We are the organization that runs things in New Rome, and most of Italy. I thought it was Dynamis. Ryan deadpanned. That's what they say, the voice laughed. But Italy only has one emperor, and his name is Augustus. Hard to disagree, the guy was invincible and could shoot homing lightning. He had more victims to his name than the cigarette. You have our thanks for saving our employee from that meta trash, Vulcan said. All this to say, whatever the winged lizard promised you, we can offer more. Is it an offer you can't refuse, or an offer? 'Cause I'm allergic to horses. We need tough people who get things done, Vulcan replied. You want women or boys? New hardware, good weapons? Enough bliss to fly you to the moon? All that shit can be yours, if you prove you're a team player. And how do I do that? An email notification popped up, indicating an address. Ryan quickly checked, identifying the location as a casino called the Bakudo. We own the establishment, Vulcan explained. Come tonight, alone, and don't make us wait. We never ask twice. Ryan ended the call, pondering about the offers. Phew, you beat up one guy, showing extreme restraint and delicateness by your usual standards, and suddenly everyone wanted a piece of you. Then again, either group could help him find Len, and he had created a save point before coming to town. That could only mean one thing. Multiple routes unlocked. Chap 3, Men of Honor. As per the name, the Bakuto was a Japan-themed casino. Having parked his car nearby, Ryan glanced up at the building with amazement. The architects had recreated a perfect copy of an Oriental pagoda tower, as large as a mall. A red carpet led to golden, ostentatious torii gates with the casino's title plastered on them. Hordes of gamblers walked inside, some dressed in traditional Asian clothes like qipao, others in tuxedos and expensive gowns. Of course, none were as stylish as QuickSave's own fabulous outfit, but the genome gave them points for trying. The staff had even dressed the bouncers as samurai in low-grade, genius-made armor. They looked almost like feudal armor, but heavier and bound by flexible circuits instead of clothing fabric. Very nice design, especially the stained glass visor. Ryan wondered if they had lightsabers to go along with it. No weapons allowed inside, one bouncer said, as he and a compatriot checked Ryan out. Due to their armor, both were at least one head taller than the genome. They immediately found the throwing knives hidden in his sleeves, and then examined him very thoroughly. It took them a few minutes to find most of his stuff. 25 throwing knives, 2 revolvers, including 1 Desert Eagle, 1 energy pistol, 1 frag grenade, a switchblade, a hand buzzer, and, the bouncer frowned, seizing a tiny metal sphere the size of a baseball. Is that a bomb? Yep, Ryan answered. Genius tech. EMP? Gunpowder? Thermonuclear. The bouncer chuckled heartily until he realized Ryan was serious. He then exchanged a glance with his fellow guards, all of them put their hands on a saber around their belts. You keep an A-bomb in your back pocket? The guard wagged the device at Ryan's face. It's only for dissuasion, the courier promised while crossing his fingers. I Korea swear. The bouncer remained silent a moment, then touched his helmet and hushed words which Ryan couldn't hear. No doubt he was contacting his manager. You can get your stuff back after you're done, the bouncer declared, putting his weapons in a bag. But one wrong move and that bomb will find its way in another A place. Understood? Yes, sir. Ryan replied as he waltzed into the casino like a child. He immediately found himself walking through a corridor of pachinkos, those strange Japanese slot machines. Gamblers toiled on them, enslaved by their otherworldly power. The sight reminded Ryan of the 4 loops he spent addicted to these machines, before getting bored.
Ah.
The nostalgia. A few steps later, Ryan entered the main gambling hall, mixing both Japanese art design and Western gambling entertainment. Roulette wheels stood side by side with blackjack tables, and they even had an arena for sumo wrestling next to a sushi bar. An elevator at the center led to the higher floors, each probably catering to different tastes. A giant screen above the sushi bar showed a promotional image of New Rome's Colosseum, and a T-Rex roaring on its grounds, under the acclaim of the crowd. A voiceover hyped up the competition. This mutant dinosaur has been cloned from ancient times and improved to fight at Colosseum Maximus. Maximus. And if dinosaurs won't do it, our robots will. The screen changed from the picture of a Jurassic Park ad to a humanoid mecha straight out of an old Japanese cartoon. Coming straight out of our weapon development program, Dynamis introduces you to the Mega Fighter Mark III. Meant to fight the deadliest psychos and marauders, this killing machine will keep you on your toes. Will any contestant get the better of these bloodthirsty monsters? You will see it in tonight's episode of Colosseum Maximus. Only at Dynamis. Ryan noticed a smaller screen showing the odds, people betting either which contestants would survive, or if the T-Rex would eat them all on the first round. For some obscure reason, most bet on an overwhelming dinosaur victory. Ryan wandered towards the roulette near the sushi bar and immediately started placing bets, throwing stacks of euro bills on the table. Quick save, a man asked Ryan, the clinking of his outfit announcing his presence long before he called out to the courier. This guy also wore samurai armor, but one blue and far sleeker, almost skin-tight. Instead of a faceless glass visor, his helmet took the shape of a black demon mask, allowing Ryan to see the black eyes and mouth below. The bouncers nodded at him in respect, and quite a few people gave the man a wide berth.
Yeah.
Clearly a genome. Yes? Ryan asked, feigning innocence. You don't have precognition, right, I hope, the man asked, crossing his arms. Because I will have to kick you out if you do. We don't allow blue genomes to play. Precognition, the courier shook his head.
Nah.
Of course not. I'm as violet as they come. Genomes were classified depending on the color of the elixir which gave them their power. Blue focused on information manipulation, from precognition to info hazards, while violet had space-time-related abilities. Then you can't peer into alternate timelines or a cheat like that, Samurai Guy asked. Or rewind time and send information to your past self? But if I can rewind time and erase this conversation so it never happened, do you even exist right now? Or are you a mere simulation of my feverish mind? Samurai Guy simply decided to watch, trying to make sense of the terrible existential conundrum Quick Save just threw at his face. In the end, the courier blew $30,000, but he had memorized the roulette numbers and the victorious gladiators' names for a later loop. Strangely, while the dinosaur won, one firecracker had managed to survive all the way to the end. All right, you definitely aren't a seer, Samurai Guy said, having acted as Ryan's chaperone during his entire gambling spree. I think you should slow down though. At this point, you're pretty much burning money. I'm sorry, what's your name? Ryan ended up asking his mysterious samurai overseer. I'm Zanbato. I'm an Augusti. Are you Japanese? Because you don't sound Japanese. No, he replied, a bit confused by the question. I'm Italian. Your supervillain name is Zanbato, but you're not Japanese? Goddamn counterfeit. I'm not a supervillain, the man protested, clearly missing the point. My girlfriend is Korean though. You have a girlfriend? Ryan gasped. That's wonderful. Thanks, the man replied with a smile. I hope to marry her soon. I'm curious, why did you come to us? I heard Wyvern made you an offer too. You guys won the coin toss, Ryan replied bluntly. Zanbato chuckled, rather amused. He quickly invaded Quicksave's personal space by putting a hand on his shoulder. I'm buying you a drink. The samurai wannabe invited Ryan to the sushi bar, taking a beer while Ryan ordered tea. Bouncers formed a security perimeter around them, to allow them some privacy. Ghoul escaped, Zanbato told Quicksave. A mole in the private security told us his pals bust him out, probably with inside help. And knowing that maniac, he will be on your trail shortly. I thought you should know. Ryan gasped, promising to inform Wyvern that Ghoul's friends would bust him out on his next save. Are you telling me that private security is corrupt? I would never have known. The grunts are underpaid, so some are open to negotiation. Their elite squads, especially those working for Dynami's executives, not so much. Zanbato sipped his beer. We know you have a pretty powerful ability, but you did good in approaching us. Safety in numbers, I always say. You know I'm immortal? Ryan asked. But I didn't tell anyone. You're immortal? Zanbato raised an eyebrow. You can't die? I think I can, but I never succeeded. Zanbato paused, unsure how to answer. Well, we know you can stop time for an unknown duration as your main power, the man said. Now what do you know about us? That you are the biggest supervillain organization in Italy, and that your boss is invincible. We are not, Zanbato sighed. We are a family and profit-minded society, men and women of honor. Not supervillains. That's what Il Miglior labels us as because we aren't corporate sellouts, and we build houses, churches, and hospitals for the poor. We are good for the community. Your drugs are good for the heart too, Ryan deadpanned. But your weapons are better. It's not illegal, Zanbato replied, which was true since there wasn't a true government nowadays. We have to fund ourselves. I'm telling you, where we rule, things are peaceful, people feel safe. There's no pillager taking your stuff, no psychos running around. When Augustus takes over Italy, and he will, you won't recognize our country. It will be like before the wars. The man sounded like he really believed it too. He seemed a bit young to rant about the good old days though. Oh, also, do you have anything child-related? Ryan asked. Because I'm pretty flexible, but if I find you do anything reprehensible to teens and below, then we're going to have a problem. Zanbato's mouth twisted into an expression of absolute disgust. We don't even sell bliss to minors, he said. We aren't savages. Not like the meta. Anyway, do you know how we work as an organization? Because if you want to join us, you will have to bend to the hierarchy. I'm more of a free spirit kind of guy, Ryan said. I'm just looking for help in finding a friend. Oh, this seemed to surprise the genome. He must have thought Ryan a money-only kind of guy. Whom? Her name is Len. Black hair, blue eyes, Marxist-Leninist. Do you have a photo? Ryan shook his head. Is she your girlfriend? No, just my best friend. Been looking for her for years, until a client tried to pay me in tech she made. He said it came from New Rome. Tech. She's a genius? Zanbato finished his beer, mulling over that information. Okay, look, if she's what matters to you, then we'll help you find her. Favor for a favor. Ryan could live with that. Once he had the information, he could always start a new loop and go to Len directly, without having to put a horse's head in someone's bed. What favor? We need muscle, Zanbato said. New Rome has a new problem called the Meta Gang. They're all psychos. I know them, Ryan replied. Had a skirmish with them years ago, back when they were small fries. Ghoul hadn't joined then, but they were already vicious assholes. Not that Ryan could blame them. The human body wasn't made to handle more than one elixir, even knockoffs. The combination of two powers made the genetic code unstable, usually driving the recipient mad. Sure, they gained an additional ability. Nobody ever developed more than two as far as Ryan knew, but needed periodical injections of elixirs to stabilize their body. These genome mutants had the well-deserved nickname of psychos. You would think people knew better. But the thought of exceptional cases like Augustus, who gained two obscene powers with no ill effects, always drove fools to try their luck. Long story short, these junkies started moving into our turf recently, especially the north neighborhoods, Zanbato explained, as shouts erupted behind them. Ryan glanced behind him, noticing a new Coliseum battle had begun on TV. They attacked our guys, we hit him back, and now they assault our associates and suppliers like Renesco. Can't you? Ryan mimicked a beheading motion. You know. Yes, we can, but for now they're just an annoying nuisance and the bosses want our best men to focus on more important matters. Zanbato asked for another beer. So what do you say? Help us beat up some mutants, get your girl?
Oh.
Business. Ryan joined his hands. How many? How many what? How many casualties? Chap 4, Random Encounter. It was May 10th, 2020 for the first time, and Ryan hadn't blown up something yet. Frankly, this surprised him. 72 hours were almost a hard cap for him for non-destructive behavior. He didn't always cause it, he just had a knack for getting into exciting situations. Ryan wasn't drawn to adventure. Adventure was drawn to him, and he couldn't wait for a new adrenaline rush. Driving at night up north, the courier and his Plymouth left the wealthy districts for more industrial ones. Hotels and casinos slowly vanished, replaced with railroad stations, gray buildings, taxi centrals, and other businesses. According to the map, they should reach the old harbor in no time. Existence is subjective.
Ryan
asked, turning his head to the passenger to his right. He had to lower himself in the car, to avoid reaching the roof with his head. Your question, about whether I exist if you can roll back time, Zanbato continued. The man had put crates full of chemicals at the car's back, then insisted on chaperoning Quick Save during his first job for the family. Both were supposed to protect a shipment from attack and beat up the meta if they dared to interrupt it. We can never know we exist, so there is no objective truth to existence. You're still thinking it over? Ryan asked, a bit surprised. He said so much nonsense in such a short time, that people usually forgot what he said halfway through. Yes. It's disturbing. You get used to the uncertainty. Better not tell him the truth. The sound of cars gave way to that of waves crashing on the shore, and the faint rustle of the evening wind. The city's old harbor seemed rather derelict, rusting buildings standing next to abandoned waterfront warehouses. The remains of a massive supertanker overlooked the sea, having crashed against a stony beach. The captain must have been drunk when it happened. If humans lived in the area, Ryan didn't notice any. They had entered the poor zone. The quality of the air also drastically declined, to the point that Ryan felt like he was kissing a professional smoker. The stink even overwhelmed the smell of the sea. He blamed it on the proximity of a nuclear power plant, industrial facilities, and the famous rust town further north. Somebody call Greenpeace, Ryan complained. They can't all be dead. Dynamics uses knockoff genomes to keep the pollution in Rust Town, Zanbato replied as they drove towards the stony beach. But they don't do much to protect this area. Is this what remains of Naples' old port? Ryan asked, curious. He had always been interested in pre-war facilities, especially since most cities had been transformed into nice, aesthetic craters.
Yeah.
Dynamics is building new docks in the south for freighters. Zanbato pointed at a spot at the waterfront. We can stop there. Ryan parked the car between two warehouses, then stepped down alongside his chaperone. A group waited for them near the remains of a pier, next to a huge pile of crates and a minivan. The leader, and the youngest, was an African-Italian barely above 18, yet taller than Ryan himself. Physically fit, he kept his hair short and dressed fashionably. He had invested his drug money on a stylized sweater, boots, and refined pants. He really gave off a cultured middle-class vibe, even if he was busy smoking a joint as the duo showed up. The rest, well, they were grunts with submachine guns, nothing special. Cannon fodder with a short life expectancy, and even shorter opportunities for career advancement, whom Ryan could identify on sight nowadays. The courier nicknamed them Grunt 1, Grunt 2, and Grunty. Finally, the leader complained upon seeing the two genomes arrive. What took you so long? You were supposed to arrive first. We're in the open. Sorry Luigi, Zanbato replied, much calmer. Traffic delayed us. Hey, Luigi. Ryan said with his best accent ever. It's me, Mario. Luigi frowned, trying to make the connection, and failing. I don't get it. I think it's video game stuff, Grunty said, the other mooks shrugging their shoulders. Ryan sighed. It's exhausting, he complained, to be an island of culture amidst a sea of ignorance. Luigi, this is Quick Save, the new muscle I told you about. Zanbato made the introductions. Quick Save, this is Luigi alias Crypto. He's our supply guy. You have a superpower too? Ryan asked, faking astonishment. Could the only guy without a weapon be special?
Yeah.
I have a bullshit filter, Luigi replied, tossing his joint into the sea to share with the fish. Who's your favorite genome? Well, I don't. A foreign force took over Ryan's mind, twisting his tongue. Mr. Wave is so cool. Seriously? Luigi asked, a little peeved. You like that cringy weirdo? Ryan couldn't stop himself. Also, I'm pretty hetero, but if Leo Hargraves sneaked into my room at night, I would still let him. Okay, stop, I don't want the details, Luigi said, the effect lifted from Ryan's mind. See? Once you start talking, you can't lie to me. One day, Ryan warned, wagging a finger at Luigi, you're going to ask me the wrong question, and you won't like the answer. As in, he would have to reload and start over. Bragging about his time stop was one thing, but Ryan always kept quiet about his save point. Someday, someone smart might figure out a way around his ace in the hole, so Ryan always kept it hidden up his sleeve. Why did you bring this guy instead of Sphere? Luigi complained to Zanbato. Or Chitter. They're busy elsewhere, the samurai replied. And you have 5 bodyguards. Bullets aren't going to stop any of the meta, his fellow crook replied, turning to the grunts. No offense guys. Zanbato cleared his throat. We can always argue about security after the job. The submarines should arrive soon, Luigi replied. I paid off the private security to look the other way, so no problem on that front. What about Il Miglior? Ryan asked, curious. Can you even buy superheroes? Luigi chuckled. Those overmarketed clowns? Don't worry, they make a show of hitting our operations from time to time, but they're too scared of us to try anything truly disruptive. They usually go after independents, not professionals. They let us do our business, we let them do theirs, Zanbato explained, removing the crates from Ryan's car. It's like the Cold War. But we're close to Rust Town and the meta already hit delivery runs like this one, so prepare yourself. Then time to fist, Ryan said, opening the trunk of his car to get his pistol gauntlets. Pistol gauntlets were metallic gloves, first developed by the infamous genius Mekran to equip close combat drones. Quicksave's own weapons looked like gauntlets with a hydraulic piston-powered ram built upon them. The mechanism pushed the ram forward, knocking back the enemy upon smashing. The courier even improved upon the original design by adding an electrical shock effect to the mix, for double the pain. They are pistol gauntlets, but they aren't any pistol gauntlets, Ryan boasted at Luigi as he put his gloves on and showed them off. I call them the Fisty Brothers because they fist people to oblivion. Everyone is afraid of nuclear bombs, but these? These are the real A-bombs. Only Grunt 2 laughed, proving that he alone had a future. Luigi looked at Ryan's gauntlets, then at Zanbato. Zan, I don't know on which planet your guy lives, but it's clearly not ours. They say madness is a pit, Ryan replied cheerfully, hands on his waist. They're wrong. Madness is a roller coaster. I kinda like him, Zanbato told Luigi, as the other grunts helped add their crates to the existing pile. He's funny. You like weird people, period. Luigi shrugged, raising his sweater's sleeve to reveal a watch. Any time now. The waters near the pier grew agitated, the trio looking over the edge. 3 strange, spherical bathyspheres emerged from the waves, each large enough to house many within their confines. The machines lacked any form of cables, unlike old bathysphere models, and instead seemed powered by small propellers. Their reinforced glass door opened, but Ryan couldn't see any controls or buttons inside. Ryan gasped, instantly recognizing the design. That's Len's stuff. Hey! Luigi shouted as the courier summarily pushed him out of the way to observe the machines better. It barely took a few glances for Ryan to confirm his hypothesis. He could recognize her work among thousands, the fondness for an outdated, steampunk technology made viable again, the ruggedness of the design, with beauty sacrificed on the altar of barbaric efficiency, the crimson paint, her favorite, dulled by the sea. The sight of the bathysphere awakened old emotions in Ryan, long buried beneath the apathy and boredom. Nostalgia, joy, longing, and even hope. Finally, after years of fruitless search, Ryan was finally on the right track. His days of solitude would soon be over. He knew this mission would further his main quest. Len, Ryan struggled to avoid having a flashback, turning to Zanbato and pleading like a child. Where did you find it? Please, please, please. I dunno, Zanbato replied. Vulcan's division takes care of the tech, not ours. We just transport and manage the supplies. I'm not even sure we even own these machines, Luigi said, dusting his clothes and bringing out a phone. He started typing as the grunts threw the crates in the bathyspheres, perhaps sending a signal to someone else. Just help us put the supplies inside and I'll look into it afterward. It's getting cold, and it ain't safe here. Speaking of cold. Now that Ryan thought of it, it seemed to be getting chillier by the second. Unnaturally so. Zanbato noticed it too, and immediately braced himself for an attack. A swirling sword of solid crimson light appeared in his hands, the perfect replica of a katana. They're here, he said, the grunts immediately raising their machine guns. Ryan looked around and quickly noticed them coming from the north. A distant figure froze the sea, creating a bridge of ice on which he skated. Ryan immediately recognized Ghoul, although instead of a hoodie, the geriatric disaster had covered his body in sheets of ice, forming a multi-layered armor. His body released a cloud of white mist, making it difficult to clearly distinguish his features. Another figure flew behind Ghoul, although floating might have been a better term. The second genome wore a black hazmat suit and gas mask, giving them a spooky vibe. Their gauntlets unleashed streams of compressed air, allowing them to propel themselves on the sea. In short, a living Chernobyl holiday ad. Ghoul and Saren, Zanbato recognized the two. Maybe more. I'll take care of them, Ryan said, eager to continue his main quest without interruptions. You can continue with the menial manual labor, minions. You want to take them on alone? Zanbato asked, a bit concerned. You're sure? They're killers.
Aww.
He cared. Ryan raised a thumb up and walked up north towards the stony beach and the supertanker. He almost slipped on the oiled stones, caught himself, and then glanced at the sea. The two psychos clearly aimed for the pier and the bathyspheres, perhaps having been forewarned. Then Ghoul noticed Ryan, who mimicked a home run with an invisible bat. Like how a bull challenged a matador, the psycho instantly veered off course, much to his companion's surprise. He charged at Ryan with murder on his mind. You mother blee-per. Ghoul screamed over the sea, the stone beach mimicking the Arctic as he came closer. A dozen ice shards formed from the moisture around the psycho, while he said so many insults that Ryan's mind automatically censored him. You bleep, I'm going to bleep your skull and bleep 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 with my bleep. That wasn't child-friendly. That wasn't child-friendly at all. You grew back your teeth? Ryan noticed. You must have drunk a lot of milk. Ghoul responded by leaping on the beach, unleashing a dozen ice daggers at Ryan at the same time. Apparently, he no longer played baseball but throwing knives. The courier accepted the challenge. Ryan stopped time, brought out the knives hidden under his trench coat, aimed, and threw them. When time resumed, Ghoul's projectiles were deflected by Ryan's own. Most ice shards hit a warehouse behind, missing their targets, while a throwing knife found its way to the psycho's unprotected eye. Nailed it. It took him so many restarts to master knife throwing, but it had been worth it. I'll peel your skin, like an orange, Ghoul hissed in pain as he removed the knife, his screams music to Ryan's ears. The eye's blood turned to strawberry-colored ice cream when it came out of the socket, making the courier hungry. Then I'll drink your blood, and the sweet elixir it carries. The other psycho chose that moment to land on the beach, hitting the ice floor with a loud thump and somehow avoiding slipping up. Ghoul's white mist slowly widened the ice layer over the beach, which now spread to the sea and the walkway. Ryan suddenly wondered if he should add a scarf to his outfit. Ghoul, what the hell? While her voice was somewhat muffled by the mask, Miss Nuclear Disaster was clearly a girl. You heard Adam. The shipment first. That's him. Ghoul snarled, creating blades of ice over his forearms and pointing them at Ryan. That's the bastard who beat me up. I told you he was an Auguste. Slander? That was the thanks Ryan got for trying to alleviate that old fossil's suffering? And they said euthanasia was progressive. I guess Adam can't be mad at us for dusting one of him then, Saren said, raising her gauntlets at Ryan as if he should be intimidated. She mustn't have washed her hands. If you knew what's good for you, you should have stayed the fuck out of Rust Town, but I guess you pussies are pretty slow to learn. Don't worry, the courier replied. Whatever happens, Blower. Blower, the hazmat girl interrupted him, confused. That's not my nah. Your name is Blower now because you blow air. Ryan then pointed a finger at One Eye, menacingly. And now his name is Picard because I liked French frozen food. In retrospect, calling a girl Blower might have sounded a little dirty, because she became really upset. Her gauntlets began to vibrate, unleashing a blast of compressed air at quick save. The ice below them began to crack from the shockwave, and Ryan realized he should have nicknamed her the Vibrator instead. Stopping time for a few seconds, Ryan lazily waltzed out of the blast's way, almost slipped on the ice, caught himself, cursed, and then let time resume. The compressed air blew up the walkway behind the beach, grinding stones to dust and redecorating the pavement in a straight line for at least 10 meters. Trying to make it a threesome, Ghoul skated after quick save speed rivaling that of a car, blades raised. Not swinging this way, Ryan dodged the attack by lowering his head. His time stop could last for up to 10 seconds, and you could do a lot in 10 seconds, but suffered from a cooldown duration afterward. It was equal to the amount of time Ryan spent freezing time. Use the time stop for 5 seconds, can't do it again 5 seconds afterward. Not understanding the concept of personal space, Ghoul kept trying to nail Ryan with his blade and received a punch in the stomach for his trouble. Fisty activated on contact, the ram smashing through the Psycho's ice armor and sending him flying backward to take a bath in the sea. The water froze right after he entered it. Unfortunately, the contact with Ghoul's white mist froze Fisty, jamming the pistons. God damn it, it always had performance issues when things heated up. Not caring about her teammate, Saren kept focusing on attacking Ryan, who chuckled at his own mental joke. The courier had to run away from the beach and on the walkway, as a shockwave collapsed the ice, even briefly stopping time to make it. You blow air very fast? That's your power? Ryan struggled not to laugh, but almost slipped on the frozen pavement, ruining the moment. Why didn't he dedicate a loop to learn ice skating again? My fan can do the same, and it cost me $15. Seeing Ryan escape and still pinning for his undivided attention, Saren pointed her hands at her feet and unleashed a new shockwave. A column of compressed air propelled her upward, allowing her to leap over the harbor. Ryan looked up and got a perfect view of her back, but much to his disappointment, she seemed to float inside her suit. Very strange. Why the obsession, blower? Ryan asked, trying to unjam Fisty so he could introduce her to that crazy girl's face. Nothing dirty. Have you fallen for me at first sight? Unfortunately for you, Saren replied, vibrating her gauntlets from above to rain short blasts at the walkway, I'm a necrophiliac. Oh, a fellow quipper. Ryan was so happy to have some back-and-forth interactions, even if he needed to focus on avoiding the blasts. So many people just tried to kill him without exchanging pleasantries, it was just rude. Stopping time again, Ryan ran away and managed to reach the part of the walkway which hadn't frozen over. Running on ice was a lot harder to do than it sounded, and more importantly, made him look like a klutz. When time resumed, Saren's volley had turned the frozen pavement into a cheese. On the horizon, the courier noticed Zanbato and Luigi finishing the supply run, seeing that he could handle the situation well. I'm sure we'll break the ice between us. That's just pitiful, Saren replied upon landing on the roof of a waterfront warehouse. The height gave her a better view of the walkway, and solid ground allowed her to focus entirely on Ryan. This time, having resolved her own performance issues, she switched from short bursts to sustained fire. Did my invitation leave you, stone cold? Quicksave shouted innocently to Miss Chernobyl, running away while managing to unjam Fisty. The sustained blast collapsed the walkway behind him, stones falling on the beach. Frankly, it surprised Ryan that they hadn't woken up the whole neighborhood. Don't you ever shut up? Ghoul's voice snarled, as the drenched Psycho leaped on the walkway for a second round. Even with his armor of ice on, he left saltwater behind with every step, and, was that a starfish stuck to his leg? Anyway, as I said before you interrupted me, whatever happens. Ryan turned to face his foes and extended his arms, doing his best to look fabulous. I won't take you seriously. Chap 5, Mission accomplished. Bugs Bunny. The rabbit was Ryan's most beloved character in all of fiction, and he had watched all its cartoons during his endless wandering. The courier always laughed at Hunter's failure to catch the wily animal, their rage growing with each missed bullet. So it must have been very frustrating for these two. Stop it. By now, Ghoul fumed so much that it became difficult to see through the white mist surrounding him. The whole harbor was slowly freezing, while the Psycho threw car-sized blocks of ice at Ryan. Stop dodging. Ryan lazily stopped time, moved out of a projectile's path, then cancelled his power. The Psycho was actually getting worse with his aiming the more angered he grew. Unfortunately, the white mist surrounding Mr. Dem Bones also made it impossible for Ryan to get in close without freezing in place. He knew he should have invested in a thicker sweater. Ghoul, he's a speedster. Saren snarled, still standing on a roof to keep the high ground. She was no more successful than her ally at hitting Ryan, who mocked her by activating his time stop just when her blasts were within an inch of reaching him. At one point, the courier even took the time to blow her a kiss. Just freeze him already. I'm not a speedster, I'm quick save. Ryan shouted, before revealing his greatest secret. I'm immortal, but don't tell anyone. Soon you're just going to be blood on the pavement. What pavement? By now the two psychos had destroyed the entire waterfront, turning it into an icy wasteland of snow and craters. Ryan had to keep moving north to find ground to stand on, eventually luring the duo to an empty parking lot. While Ghoul pursued him on foot, his female companion glided on top of a streetlight, somehow managing to avoid slipping up. There was something wrong with the way she moved, as if she had no weight at all. All psychos were mutants, so she must have an abnormal physiology beneath the hazmat suit. I'm sorry, but you make ice cream and blow off air, Ryan pointed out. Household products can do it. While I control the linchpin of all reality. I try not to sound patronizing, but... Ghoul unleashed a wide burst of white mist with a furious growl, freezing everything in its path. Ryan simply activated his time stop and dodged once again. Still, growing bored with the pursuit and now having an opening, he grabbed two of his throwing knives, launching one at Ghoul's remaining eye, the other at Saren. When time resumed, Ghoul lost his remaining eye, and Saren took a knife to the chest. You ain't making it easy. Ryan stopped talking, however, when green gas came out of Saren's hazmat suit. The strange substance immediately rusted the streetlight below the psycho, causing the electrical parts to short-circuit and the metal to slowly bend. Saren put a hand on the opening, trying to keep the gas inside. He knew she was full of hot air. I'll kill you, Ghoul whined, his face now looking like a strawberry sorbet with all the frozen blood flowing from his skull. It was vaguely horrifying, but Ryan had seen worse. I'll kill you. Ghoul, I know the sight of my dashing costume and my long, bloody bat made you fall for me at first sight, Ryan taunted him. Trust me, I get that a lot. But I just don't see you that way. I swear to God, I swear it, rasped the abominable ice cream, his hands on his face, if you crack a joke again, You will give me the cold shoulder? Ryan chuckled, unable to resist. Ghoul exploded in a snarl of fury, his body swallowed by white mist. The strange substance seemed to swirl around him, creating layers upon layers of stalagmites. When it dissipated, Ghoul was gone, replaced with a 4 meters tall titan of ice and snow. This strange fusion between a snowman and a hedgehog had maces instead of hands, and a thick defense of ice spikes. Oh! Ryan barely had the time to leap to the side, as the enormous snowman attempted to squash him like a bug. The sheer strength of the elemental construct shattered the concrete and shook the ground. Saren, meanwhile, was too busy trying to cover the hole in her suit to assist. How did Ghoul manage to make that body work? Ice didn't work that way, it couldn't even bend. Ryan called cheating. A rumbling noise echoed across the parking lot, growing louder with each new step. Something heavy was rushing towards the battlefield, to claim part of the glory. Quick save! Zanbato entered the parking lot, his hands manifesting a sword of crimson light. The security is coming. I thought you guys paid them off. Ryan asked, dodging another strike from Ghoul. He wondered how the psycho could locate him without his eyes, guessing it probably had something to do with temperature. We paid them to ignore a delivery run, not the harbor's destruction. Zanbato glanced at the two psychos present, and first cut the streetlight on which Saren stood. Miss Chernobyl glided to the other end of the parking lot, confirming Ryan's suspicions that she was made of gas. Zanbato switched target from Saren to her compatriot, who was closer, moving at great speeds in spite of the heaviness of his armor. He cut through the giant snowman's leg like a turkey, slicing it clean in half. Yet the limb quickly reattached itself to the body, Zanbato having to step back to avoid being frozen by mist. The Augusti mafioso still tried to hack at the giant, proving himself so annoying that Ghoul abandoned his pursuit of Ryan to attack this new foe. The sound of an aircraft echoed above them, Ryan raising his eyes to watch an attack helicopter fly above the parking lot. He recognized it as a customized Augusta A-129 Mangusta, piloted by 2 security guards. Ryan waved a pile of banknotes at them, as a sign of friendship. They responded with a missile. Ryan stopped time just long enough to move out of the bomb's way, thankful that they didn't use laser weapons. He was fast, but not as much as light. When time resumed, he quickly realized that the private security targeted everyone, the missile impacting in the middle of the battlefield. Zanbato protected his face with his hand and avoided being knocked back, his armor deflecting debris, while Ghoul's snowman form took the projectiles without showing any form of discomfort. Saren, however, was pushed backward by the blast, quickly getting back on her feet with fury. "Fuck off!" Hazmat Girl moved a hand to cover the hole in her suit, and the other towards the skies. A second later, she fired a blast straight at the helicopter, destroying its tail and sending it on a crash course towards the ground. All right, it had gone on long enough. Playtime's over. As Saren pointed her gauntlet at Ryan, the courier stopped time for the last time. He glanced at the helicopter, to assess if he had to rescue the guards, only to notice a flying form next to the aircraft. A humanoid figure, nearly impossible to see in the darkness, and only visible due to the smoke blurring their features. Probably a genome on Dynami's payroll, rescuing the guards. Good. That meant Ryan could focus on the ground. The time manipulator moved behind Saren, avoiding the clouds of toxic fumes hanging in the air from her wound, and moved her hand towards Ghoul. Time resumed, and the giant snowman took a full, sustained blast of compressed air head-on. Physics being physics, the ice construct exploded in a rain of droplets and shards, a helpless Ghoul hitting the ground face first. Zanbato quickly cut him in half execution style, while the helicopter crashed on the frozen beach further west. Suddenly realizing what happened, Saren barely had the time to turn her head around and look over her shoulder. "Blow this." And Ryan introduced her to Fisty, face first. The pistol gauntlet shattered her mask's glass parts and tossed her backward. Ryan barely had the time to dodge by leaping to the side, as the holes in her mask unleashed a stream of gas. Like a balloon, Miss Hazmat flew towards the horizon at full speed, unable to control her trajectory. She continued for a while, before finally crashing into the distant supertanker's wreck. Ryan glanced at Fisty, making a face as the gas rusted the pistons into scrap within seconds.
Yeah.
Sure, he could have ended it a lot sooner by gutting them in the stop time. But life wasn't about winning. It was about having fun. "Is she dead?" Zanbato asked, upon reaching quick save. "I'm not sure," Ryan shrugged, before realizing he couldn't see his favorite undead among the snowman's remains. "Is Ghoul?" "No, that's his other power. He never dies, even when missing the right organs." "He's immortal too?" Ryan gasped, shocked. "He won't enjoy it much. I cut him in more pieces than a birthday cake and tossed the head into the sea." Zanbato glanced at the space where Saren had blasted the private security's helicopter. The machine had crashed into the Mediterranean Sea, the mysterious superhero gone. "Luigi's team has already left, and we should make our escape before more security guards arrive. Can you give me a lift?" "Anytime," Ryan replied, whistling. He could already hear his self-driven Plymouth Fury circle around the battlefield to reach them. "Your car can move by itself?" Zanbato asked, impressed. If you really want to know, Ryan confided, I don't have a driver's license. In the end, the duo left the harbor in ruins, and almost crossed paths with 3 private security armored minivans. Before leaving the area, Ryan had given a last glance at the destroyed helicopter, the remains having sunk into the sea. He hoped the guards were okay, they were just doing their job, albeit a bit too zealously, and if they had died, he would consider creating a new loop to save their lives. You can leave me at this corner, Zanbato pointed at a railroad station. My girlfriend will pick me up. You have a girlfriend? Ryan asked. That's wonderful. Yes, I already told, Zanbato stopped himself, I get it. I'll introduce the 2 of you one day, I'm sure you will get along. Same sense of humor. Without false modesty, I am inimitable. That's for sure. Zanbato replied with a chuckle, climbing down of the car and stepping on the walkway, 2 drunk guys passing by them. Look, about your girl. If it's her tech for the submarines, then I'll ask Vulcan for you. We'll solve that mystery in no time. I would appreciate it, Zahn. Can I call you Zahn? Or Zani? Jamie, the samurai replied, shaking Ryan's hand before leaving. You can call me Jamie. Ryan watched him leave with a fine feeling of contentment. What a fine night. Not only did Ryan find a lead towards Len, he also made a new friend. A nice, friendly mobster fellow. Certainly, it locked him on to the Augusti path, but so far so good. A few more missions and they would give him the critical information he needed to find his best friend. But that would wait after a night of good, gentle sleep. He would have to repair his rusted fisty tomorrow morning, and dodging attacks all night had exhausted him. 1 hour's drive later, Ryan finally reached the door of his hotel room, ready to collapse on the bed. His hand touched the doorknob, feeling a little pressure fight against his push. Click. Before Ryan knew what hit him, the floor exploded in gas and fire. It was May 8, 2020 for the 5th time, so Ryan stopped his Plymouth Fury in the middle of the road. Of course, quite a few motorists honked him in response, threatening the genome with bodily harm if he didn't move. The courier ignored them, meditating on what just happened, before reaching a decision. I'm changing hotels, Ryan promised, driving back to Renesco. This city isn't safe at all. He wondered if inns were insured against terrorist attacks.